a recording like what we're doing, right? We do the training, we do it via Microsoft Teams, we take the recording, right? And we save it in a SharePoint. Now you end up with 4 hours training session about sales management, for example, accounts payable. And then if users need to do one thing, right? Create an approval for a new order that they just released, and just they don't know about the approvals. And of course, they know that the 5 minutes where we talk about approvals is in that 4 hours video, but good luck trying to find it, right? And so the easiest way is just to keep asking or keep asking. So really, how do we fix that? We need to stack the training, and ideally you want to do that into 2 sessions. One session is delivered earlier on during the project, typically after the configuration has been agreed, the scope is defined. We know that we're going to have sales purchases, we're going to have inventory management, we're going to have cash management, for example. And so what we do, we have one user familiarization training where we talk about the basics. These are the pages, these are the screens, these are the buttons, right? This is the terminology, for example. And then we have another session closer to UAT, which is based on the system which has been configured for the organization. Because as you know, an out of the box sandbox, right, which is got just test data, uh, is not configured, right? And therefore, it's very different than what the users will eventually, use. So stack the session in two: one easy one system or user familiarization, and another which is based on the configured solution, which can be as close as possible. And it's not going to be the final one, but it's going to be very close to what the users will use. Uh, and then we can talk about training material, but that's probably another question, because that's like a big topic. But really, if your users keep asking the same question, can you show me again that one? It's the same features, the same screen. Your training is not effective, and so that is really the common to do. So solution: stack your training in two, and you will see that it will really make a big impact on the training overall.
Thank you. So I think the training content, you may have that beautifully organized, but you're talking about the delivery method and
Yes.
actually having your delivery method organized in a way that's working for that particular team or yeah.
Yes. Yes, you absolutely, absolutely. So the delivery method, it's also something that
Mm,
we can add to the conversation, because it, of course, users don't learn in the same way, right? So people that with different skills and different expertise learn in a different way, and you want to get the I mean, tailor in a way your training, your style based on their skills, right? It's just like at school, right? You are a teacher, you have a classroom, but the classroom is based on the year, right? And so you have children at school that are pretty much on the same level, even though some might be more advanced and others might struggle, right? You don't really put together in a class when you need to talk about the maths, for example, and you have two children of grade three, and then you have two university students, and are you trying to deliver the same lesson? Someone's going to be left behind. So the training method and the training content must be tailored. But that means that you need to strategize that first. So you want to work with your client. And so when we, for example, when I need to plan a training session for a client and it's inventory management, I need to ensure that in the classroom we have, of course, people with responsibilities in terms of inventory management, not only, but also users who are eager to learn. They have, let's say, proclivity, right, and curiosity to learn the new system, And so you need to have the right methodology, which is you need to learn how they essentially how they learn. You need to know how they learn so you can teach them.
Can I just
Sure.
interrupt a moment? So do you find that you notice a pattern in things that people are asking in terms of how people learn and learning how they learn, so you can learn to give that training that's intuitive, more intuitive, so that you don't get these repeated questions over and over. Do you notice a pattern in certain types of questions? You know, a pattern in repeated questions. Is that
Well,
how
a
you can
partner, yeah, of course, it depends on the team, right? It depends on the team,
Mm,
it depends on on the
of course.
user. Yeah, but
Mm,
yeah, there is a pattern. It's typically about features. So how do I release an order? How do I register an invoice? Right? It's about specific tasks, and it's on typically because users are taught to go through page by page in a very methodical way, and that's the best way that we consultants know, right? To use the system, because we have the processes and the back end. It's all in our head, right? And so it's easy for us to say page one and then page two and then page three, but users don't really typically learn in that way. Users know that at the end of the day they need to get stuff done, right? And so trying to remember 20 steps, 20 pages, 30 buttons, right? It's overwhelming. And so remind me about this button again. Remind me about how register an invoice again. It's not because they forgot the page of the button. It's because the training was not effective and they didn't get how that particular task fits into an overall process. That's the main thing that I learned. That I see when I train users. There is also another element which is rather interesting. It's about the terminology, and again, it's part of the training strategy. You know, each system calls the same things in a different way, right? For example, in manufacturing, we have F&O, where you find work orders, but in Business Central, we have production orders, right? And in other systems that are not Microsoft related applications, and this is something I've been working on lately. A client of mine used to have this old legacy system where production orders were called root cards, and it's about an old system which is rather obsolete. Also, the terminology is quite confusing. But the problem is that the team knows root cards, and to them, a root card is a page in the system where they can do stuff regarding consumption. And nobody, because I joined the project quite later, nobody in the team or in the consulting team decided it was a good idea to tell the client, I appreciated it to you that that is a work order, but if you keep calling things in a way that doesn't match your system, we cannot help you. And so in their documentation and their recording, the consultant used production orders, and users used to be, what is this thing, right? And to them, it's about work orders. So if you don't embrace the terminology, that will always backfire. That is training. The first thing that you need to start with. So these are the names, right? And you need to start calling things with the right name. Otherwise, you will always get lost, right? Because you start a new user starts working today. They start keying in. Oh, we need to open a work order, and work order or root card. I don't see anything. The first thing you do, sorry, can you show me that again, right? And so this is really a couple of patterns that I see very often.
Okay, thank you. So does that sort of do you end up then having gaps in terms of the way that the users have the documentation of all the training and everything like that? You end up with gaps in what's happening, so you're having to go back and go over things
Yes,
that you would
and you need to go
typically.
back. Absolutely, absolutely. And
Mm,
then those gaps are usually not seen as training gaps; they're seen as knowledge gaps. And so something rather fastidious happen in the consulting world. We tend to blame the user. And, oh, that client, they asked me the same question again about that work order, production order. I must have told them 20 times. Well, first of all, it's not really true. And consultants tend to exaggerate. But second is, well, you know what? If the client doesn't get it, who's to blame, right? So eventually, the training is ineffective when the trainer has used a methodology or an approach which is not effective. And so your users end up with knowledge gaps or training gaps is because the training was not being strategized correctly, right?
I see. Thank you. So does that also potentially have a problem post go live
Yes.
when, yeah, so then the knowledge that you've so carefully
Mm.
um, put out there then is not retained as well, so it
Yeah.
starts to decay more quickly and you have those sorts of problems.
Well, yes, post go live is very important, but the problem with training which is not retained, or knowledge which is not retained, is that you see the impact of ineffective training in UAT before go live, user acceptance testing, because that's where users are under pressure, right? So users need to test the system in UAT and need to sign off UAT so that they can go live, right? And so imagine you work in marketing and sales for this organization, and they just turned on Dynamics 365 Sales as their CRM, right? The one that we use at D365 Training. We are Microsoft partners, so we use Microsoft technology. So it's UAT. We need to test that lead qualification, opportunity management, lead scoring, right? Prospecting, so everything, the customer journeys, right? The emails that we sent out. No, and you are under pressure because you got 3 weeks to test everything, and you need to sign off documents that says, yes, I'm happy with how the system is being configured and everything works fine. But if you don't know how to use your system, how are you going to go through that? So it's a lot of pressure. Your manager is, have you tested? Camilla, have you done that? You got 10 use cases today. You got 20 by the end of the week. And you know what? What you do? You don't know how to do it. You're not sure. You call the consultant. Sorry, this thing is not working. And then you feel, all right, then I'll wait for the consultant to come back to me. And so the consultant picks it up and says, well, of course it does work. You're just clicking on the wrong button. But then
Yeah.
creates, the system, the project is slow down, and it's a nightmare. So really, this happens when again training was too generic. Users don't know how to apply what they learned, assuming that they remember what they learned because you give them the training 6 months before, and you always come back to them. Well, this is a screenshot, right? This is a video. Go check the video in Teams. Yeah, the video is 6 hours about opportunity management and sales of receivable, and so good luck with that. So again, bespoke training, right? Make it bespoke, stack it into sessions, and forget about those training agendas that are pre-compiled based on the project. And sometimes I've seen these agendas. There are some partners that use agendas that are 4 or 5 years old. They describe processes that are not even supported, right? But again, consultants just know their stuff, so they don't really think about changing the way they work. That's why training must be approached in a different way, right?
Okay, thank you. So it seems as if with UAT it can sort of merge into part of the learning rather than being just the testing phase, primarily a testing phase. It sort of starts to become part of the learning as well, if this
Yes.
happens, which I don't know if you do or don't. Is that a good or a bad thing? Um,
Well, either both in a way. So if you think about it, user acceptance testing is where users are busy testing the system and confirming to the overall organization, both parties, the project manager and the Microsoft partner, yes, we're happy. The system is working fine. We're very happy. We're ready to go live. As you do that, you normally learn more, right? It's inevitable. Yeah, but the goal of UAT is not for us to learn the system. even though we will eventually learn it even more. UAT must be about acceptance testing, and so if we stop UAT because something doesn't work, it must be because something doesn't work, not because the users don't know how to how to use it. So it's a gap, and so and where consultants should really only come and help when there is a real defect, when the system is not working, and there is a defect, there is something we need to fix, the data is not right? These are the important things that we need to spot in user acceptance testing so that we can fix it, test it again, confirm that that particular area or process works, and we're ready to go live. If we have knowledge gaps during UAT, the risk is that we babysit the users, right? Let me show you. Click here to do the posting, click here to do the invoice, and that's not UAT. You're going back at training, which means you need to delay UAT. But the thing is that most consultants and most project managers don't want to delay UAT and say, well, okay, well, the users don't really know how to use the system, but they're new. So a bit of UAT support, but also a bit of training, and eventually we'll go live. But that creates enormous pressure to the delivery team because you need to spend hours every day training and teaching and troubleshooting, and it's just too much because you could not have like 3 people, every day full time on UAT because consultants need to do other stuff, right? 2, it gets too expensive for the client. You cannot really charge them the full rate for something that you did before, right? We did finance training 3 months ago. Now we're doing more finance training during UAT. Why is it that I need to pay for 2 or even more, finance sessions? The client is not happy. The budget may overrun, and it's just too much, right, to manage. It's not just a good customer experience. And so, yes, training, but no, it shouldn't really happen, right? We shouldn't be at UAT. We shouldn't be working on UAT where knowledge gaps. Something didn't work if that happens.
Okay, thank you. So it's sort of about the expectation needs to be that the system will behave in this way. When it comes to UAT, we have a realistic idea of that.
Yes, exactly.
To do. And
Absolutely.
that question 2 was, why does UAT generate a flood of support tickets? Well, I think
we answered that already, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
covered that one. So we'll move on to question 3 now. Why do clients always ask for more training? Is that so?
Of course, it happens. Not always, right? So, yeah, the question maybe is always ask for more training. No, really, they don't always ask for more training, right? But it happens very, very often. Can you train me more on that? Can you give me more? And again, that happens when training is ineffective and user didn't learn, right? And so, can you have a refresher on approvals? Can we have one more session on inventory management? It's either again ineffective training. For everything we discussed, the wrong people in the classroom, right? No training material, right? And it was just too much. It was 6 months ago when we had the training, and now we're going to use it, and now we don't know. Or it can be because the system is being reconfigured, and so everything looks different. But really, primarily, if client asks for more training, knowing that they might be charged for that, and they usually get charged for that because it's additional time, not originally defined in the project commercials, is because really the training material is not useful, right? Because who would ask for the project manager say, look, I need four more hours with Alfredo to go through inventory management again? Alfredo hourly rate is a lot, right? So consultant time is very quite expensive, rightly so, because consultants do valuable work when they go through analysis, configuration, right? Design specifications, extensions, modifications. It's valuable job. Training is valuable, yes, but once it's delivered once it's been delivered, right? There shouldn't be any time for refresher. You should be able as a user go through the training material again and have that refresher, right? And so if that happens, if the client asks for more, can you teach me more about? Can you guide me through bank account reconciliation once again, please? It's because the training material is not useful. And if you are under pressure, rather than checking the Teams recording where you talk about, oh, banking is part of finance. What do we do on finance? Two sessions of 6 hours each. Now you've got 12 hours of video recording. Good luck finding the 10 minutes where I talk about bank reconciliation. The easiest thing to do is, can I get more time with Alfredo, please? And so it that generates, again, project overruns, a higher cost, right? So if your clients ask for more training, you need to arrange and organize the training material in a way which is can be easily found. You should find the right video and the right documentation. You can find it with a a clear session. Say we talk about bank account reconciliation from 1 hour 30 to 1 hour 40, 10 minutes, and you can actually see it, right? uh, so if you don't organize your training material in an effective way.
Can I just ask, is this
Sure.
what I've heard you mention at times, that sort of phased learning strategies? Is that when you're sort of, would that be something that you think about when you're scoping the project?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely,
So
100%.
would that be a way to deal with the complexity in dynamics, that would be more effective?
Absolutely, 100%. Because again, generalized training means it's finance training. It's 2 days, because again, finance is complicated, and we have 10 people. We don't put 10 people in one room for a full day because they also have a business to run, right? And so they need to do other stuff. And so what do we do? 2 sessions, 3 people in each class, right? And we go through the same thing again and again. But then, how about the training material? Where is it stored? How about the video? Do you have agendas? Do we have, I don't know, screenshots? Have you got a configured sandbox? I mean, it's all stuff that you plan beforehand, right? And you work with the client's project manager based on the team's skills and expertise. And then you might find people who are self-learners, and they just need the basics, and they tell you, I'm going to use internet, and I'm going to use my sandbox. I got 3 hours a day for the next 3 months for self-learning. Well done, good luck, go ahead. But it must be planned in advance, right? If your team says, look, we've got no time for self-learning, we're very busy, we want the training, we want the best training you can possibly deliver, we want training manuals, we want material which we can retrieve, because when you're not there, right, my team needs to be able to find the training material and do UAT without your support. And we don't want to pay for more training. This is what the client will tell you. Well, if the client tells you you've got limited budget, limited availability, you need to create your training manuals. You need to make content available for them. So you got your videos, you got your playlist, you got your material. Search it, and then if you don't find it, you call me. But that stage was my fault because I didn't include it in my first training, and so that's a good conversation to have, right? So that's really what we need to do.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm hearing that you're really building in this sort of embedded learning into the whole life cycle of the project, so that you've got, the scoping of the project, your phased training, reinforcing the learning as you go along, making sure that all these things are going to be in place from the start, but also
Yes,
learning about that as you go along, because obviously you want the training is going to be role based as well, so that you can eliminate as much as you can, and reduce, at least, this sort of cry for training, that can more
yes,
training, and that can come along
yeah, yeah.
later in the day, which
Yes, 100%, absolutely. So you strategize
yeah.
first. Yeah, you're planning according to the role, and
Mm.
you stack it in different sessions. I mean, it's a big part of every Dynamics implementation. If we if we do work with Success by Design, which is Microsoft framework to deliver Dynamics Dynamics applications. It The methodology, well, it's not really a methodology, but again, that's something maybe for another session. But Microsoft recommends a training strategy. You need to strategize your training, and you need to stack it in a way which is effective. training strategy is quite rare in Dynamics organizations because it's costly, first, but second, because it requires a anyway, professional. I don't like the word to use the word professional, but it requires a strategic approach to training, which is typical of training service providers like us, D365 Training, and teachers, for example. And this is probably the last, the last comment that I want to make here. Consulting and training are two different skill sets. And it's very important. And this happens across all business areas, not just in the business world. I was thinking about a dear friend of mine who has been a professional footballer for many years and he's now retired, right? A very good footballer, right? He knows how to play football very well. But and I remember because I used to, go to his, training, days and his football matches with him many years ago. Um, his coach or his trainer has never been a footballer, a professional footballer, right? And this happens in sports very often. You have the athletes, right? You have the tennis players or the fast runners, right? Who compete at the Olympics, right? They win the gold medal and they participate in tournaments and they win matches, and their coach is not another very good player like them. Rarely so, right? So you have the one who prepares the athlete, the coach, the trainer, and you have the athlete who performs, right? So in the consulting world, in the business world, we must use the same approach. We have, and I know of exceptional consultants, and I still work with many of them, who know the ins and outs of every system, and they are the top of their game. Ask them to teach you about what they know, and it's a nightmare, right? They can never get to the point, and they will overwhelm you with lots of details. The opposite is also true. I have worked with amazing trainers with only a few hours that can teach me everything about the application. But ask them a question that takes them off the script. Like, for example, how can a company in this industry use this feature, but not to do what you show me to do something else? And then the trainer fails. Say, oh, I got no idea. I never really used this application at work, right? I only teach it and I go through the curriculum. So they know the script, they can share and make you absorb knowledge, but they don't have consulting skills. So consulting and training are two different skill sets. And sometimes, I would say most of the time, it's quite rare to find both. Right? I consider myself a good trainer. I am a Microsoft certified trainer, but I must say I am more of a consultant. I am a much better consultant than a trainer. And we work with trainers at D365 Training who are far better trainers than I am. But I am a better consultant, right? And so Microsoft partners don't really have trainers, not all of them. I know of a Microsoft partner in the Midlands, one of the largest in the UK, one of the with a very strong reputation to be one of the best partners in this ecosystem, and I happen to know the directors, and they are very nice bunch of people. They have a training team, an internal training team, and their trainer, their senior trainer, it was the first one who taught me about Business Central, right? And so we're still in touch after 12 years. So this is a great strategy. Some partners do that, but not all. Actually, it's very rare. So strategize training using trainers and deliver implementations through consultants, because it's consulting work. The two normally normally they are very strongly related, but they're not the same thing, right?
Thank you. That's a very important point, and one I'm sure you can continue to embellish on. However, we have come to the end of our time,
All
and we
right.
have missed our last question, which was about burnout. So we were thinking about talking about why does training burn out your consulting team, but we can save that one for another time.
Yes, we can. We can talk about more about strategies next time. So today we talked about training gaps. Maybe next time we can talk about training strategies. So consultant
Yeah.
team, not using the consultant team, when to deliver training, training material, yes or no, what kind of was the right format, training support, post go live support. How do you manage, right? So maybe we can look more into practical strategies to make training more effective. How about that?
Lovely. That would be wonderful. So that was Training Bites. Huge thank you, Alfredo, to you for
Thank you,
sharing
Gabriela.
some of the insights. And as always, your comments are very welcome, everybody. So any comments, any questions, send them over and we'll answer them.
Wonderful.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.